So anyway, like I said, I've been wrong about certain things in construction, and half the time I'm really learning from the clients I work with. All right, guys. Well, so if you're joining us for the first time, again, this is a channel where we talk about everything returning from diaspora. There's a lot of Africans who are trying to move back to the continent after spending time out there. Some people who have never been to Africa who are really curious about what life is like living in the village. So essentially what you're looking at is just one of the many examples. Yes, Mama. You know, huh? What you did? Yeah? What?
I just make something to eat.
Okay, go tell Ansan. Go tell Ansan. Sorry guys, that's my supervisor as always. She's always around me. I'm privileged to at least have her for now when they're still this old. You know, as they grow older, they move out. So anyway, guys, I want to take the next 10 minutes talking to you about some of the things I've been wrong about when it comes to construction in the village. It's been a 7-year journey for me with lots of mistakes, but there's some things that we got right. And so in doing so, I also meet clients who are really good at construction. In fact, some of my clients build in the United States. And so when I meet them, oftentimes for me, it's like, you show me your ways, master. Because I gotta learn from some of the things that I've gotten right. The big challenge I have with my clients who are builders in the US is that their expectations and what is possible within the village can be different. And so I often have to remind that while we try to do the kinds of things we do in the US, it's not always possible to produce a perfect match between what's happening in the village and what's happening in the US. So we'll do our best. Like a lot of the homes we designed, we take the templates from the US or from diaspora. But there's always going to be some small gap because our builders have not lived outside Kenya. And so sometimes they have a hard time translating things from diaspora into what's happening down here. So anyway, over the years, I've been wrong about many things. Many things, and some of them I'm going to be sharing out with you. So for example, we've got some really good builders. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested on construction, real estate, land, you need help, hit me up on the number below. I'm going to share that with you. I'm just out here looking at which fruits are ready for picking. Because in my home, there's always, every single day, there's always something ready to be picked. In fact, half the time, I don't even realize that it's the birds who are having a field day out, which I don't mind. The birds can still eat it. Like I see there's a pawpaw that is right now. Let me turn around and see if I can. Right over here by the top of the gate, there's at least one ripe pawpaw that I need to pick up before the birds do their thing. We don't mind sharing, but sharing means we get some and they get some. So anyway, like I said, I've been wrong about certain things in construction. And half the time, I'm really learning from the clients I work with. Sometimes when I offer to do a job for a person, we often give them a quote. And like I said, the method we use is that we don't calculate labor as a percentage of the work to be done. For obvious reasons, that when you do that, you incentivize the fundis to inflate materials. And also the other challenge is that there are certain works that the material needed is very low cost, but the kind of work that goes into it can be really expensive. For example, when you're doing plaster, plaster work will highly depend on the kind of wall you're working with. Some walls are very smooth. Like if you use interlocking blocks that are very smooth, or if you're using like concrete blocks, very smooth. But if you're using very rough bush stones, then the plaster work is really going to be intense. So, and with plaster, typically all you need is cement and sand. So if you're just going by percentage of material, it can get a little tricky sometimes. In fact, I've had cases where we agree on a price, work starts, and then it turns out that there's so much work to be done and the client has already paid. And so I don't like the idea of percentages. Let's just agree on what needs to be done. If we get a good figure that works for everybody, then we get it done. So oftentimes when I give a quote to a client, I tell them, hey, there is nothing wrong about getting a comparable quote. So if say we are coming to do solar for you, and this happens quite a bit. Whenever we install solar products, I tell the clients, you go out there, also do some shopping. See what quotes are out there. Once you find a quote, bring it to me. So then we end up with two scenarios where sometimes a client gets a lower quote. So all I have to do is, if they trust us, then I'll ask my guys to match that new price. And usually they can. Sometimes it doesn't work out because they get quotes that are slightly really off out there. So if you get a comparable quote and you still like or trust the work we do, I say, get it, bring it to us, and I will ask my guys to match it, if they can. So that helps. But also when they get a comparable quote, like I said, it really helps with negotiating the cost of material or the cost of labor. So it's okay to get comparable quotes. Sometimes, unfortunately, the cheaper quotes often mean you're getting low quality materials or low quality labor. Like I've had a case where a client actually brought a different quote for solar products. It was going to be at least 250,000 shillings cheaper. But then when I looked at the product they're offering, I look at the kind of inverter they're giving them, low frequency inverter, you're looking at very low quality panels. And I was like, okay, well, it's good you're getting a lower quote, but this thing does not match what we offer. So at that point, I give the client the choice as to whether to go with a lower offer or to go with our offer. But oftentimes, getting a comparable quote is helpful because at the bare minimum, it helps us with negotiating costs. Now, the other way that getting a comparable quote helps is that, and I'll give you one example of a client that I'm currently working with in Kisumu. We've done many things for them, but one area we were supposed to work on was the terrazzo. So I get a quote from my terrazzo guy, and theirs was, I knew it was high. So I tell the client that I've gotten a quote, but it looks like it's slightly higher than what I expected. So I send to the client. And the client also does her shopping around, finds a different terrazzo guy who charges much, much lower than our quote. So I was like, okay, great. Let's see. So all I asked the client to do is to invite that guy, give me their contact, and then we take a look at their work. So the new lower guy actually came on site and did like a sample work. And I was very impressed with the quality of work that this guy did for terrazzo. So I think this is a win-win for all of us. So I told the client, okay, let's go with this new guy. Hopefully his work ethic is good. Because again, sometimes you can get a cheaper guy to do something, but their work ethic can be on another level. I've had fundis who are really good at the work they produce. But when it comes to other things, other extra curricular activities going on, you will have massive headaches. So this terrazzo guy turned out to produce a very good sample, and his price is way, way lower than my guy. So here's how it's a win-win for all of us. Number one, the client obviously gets the same quality of work at a much lower rate. So that's good. Number two, then I have just found a new person who can actually deliver terrazzo work for me at a lower cost. So my expensive guy now is going to have to wait a little bit because now I have a good guy who seems to know what they're doing at a lower cost. So I always say that if at all it's possible within your means, it's okay to get a comparable quote. Bring it to me. Let's take a look at it. And again, I do this with clients, even if you don't work with me. If somebody gives you a quote somewhere for whatever it is, and you want to find out whether it's reasonable or not, just send it to me. I'll give you feedback for free. I don't even charge for quotes. Because I know one of the challenges that we face as diasporans is that we don't know how much things cost. So oftentimes you're given a quote and you don't know whether it's reasonable or not. But also keep in mind that just because somebody is charging you expensively, it doesn't mean they're exploiting you. Sometimes we have that problem where you see a high quote and then immediately you're like, okay, I'm being exploited. It is possible that maybe you're being exploited. But hey, that's Ongeno. I'm standing right on top of Ongeno. Oh well. Anyway, so those are some of the wildlife that I have to live with in my house. So people will price their work differently. I have seen architectural works that cost as much as $1 million or even more. But I've also seen architectural works that cost as low as like maybe 35,000. So all I say is that people are going to price their work differently. However, the most important thing is no matter the pricing you are given for any type of work, the cost should match the quality of work produced. It's really terrible when you pay a lot of money. You pay a lot of money for really mediocre work. So if they're going to charge you premium cost, I'm expecting premium work. So again, just because somebody is charging you more, it doesn't mean you're being exploited. But it's also true that, again, like I said, you can still be exploited when they charge you way more than something is worth. Like a biodigester. I know what an average biodigester costs. When I meet a client who was like, there's a client I'm talking right now who paid about, I think it was like 620,000 for a Bangladeshi. I have never done a Bangladeshi for 200,000 or even more, never. So 600, in my view, at least, is higher end. But again, some of these costs will depend on the client. If the client is maybe female, does not know, and maybe is in a high-end neighborhood, they will price it differently. It's just like electricity. When you live in Rwanda versus somebody who lives in Eastlands in Nairobi, you'll not pay the same amount for the same electricity. So again, just because they're charging you more, it doesn't mean that you're being exploited. So be smart, feel free to get comparable quotes, and when you get a comparable quote, like bring it to us. Let's see if we can match it. My folks usually can match it. And when they can't, like I recently had a case of a client who needed gypsum work, had a different expectation in terms of cost, and when I brought it to my folks, it just was not going to work. And unfortunately, we had to go separate ways. But sometimes we don't agree, and that's okay. That's okay. Well, I hope, folks, you learned something useful, and welcome back to Karating. Bye.